Joining me now to provide more insight on the leaders' meetings is Yves Tiberghien. He is an associate professor of political science at the University of British Columbia. Thanks so much for joining us. As Greg mentioned in that report, President Xi said the world's economies have reached a crossroad between cooperation or confrontation. Does this basically set the tone for this gathering?
Yes, absolutely. So the gathering in this case has been really overshadowed by this confrontation of two visions by the president of China and by the vice president of the US. And in a way, it's seen a bit as a rehearsal for the meeting that will take place at the G20 in Argentina in about two weeks. And so those two speeches are pretty dramatic and of globalization, of global governance, and of bilateral relations.
And Yves, with this emphasis on the trade war that's heating up, what role do you think these other APEC nations could play in trying to quell it, if any?
Well, so there have been all kind of other speeches, and you could see that by and large, most of the other nations are kind of caught in the middle. They dislike this sort of confrontation. We saw the same thing at the ASEAN summit and the East Asia summit. Their hope is to project a vision where maybe a few issues can be solved, some of them bilaterally with China, but then they want to protect the global architecture, the global order, the global governance. And so on that, the speech by Xi Jinping is closer to the interest of most of them.
And Yves, let's move on beyond trade and this trade war. What are some of the other highlights you expect from APEC?
There is a lot also of sort of thinking and a lot of talking about the general architecture, so global governance in general, but that includes security. So there were both sides discussing about security issues, about Papua New Guinea. There's also a lot of emphasis on development. Most of Asia requires more infrastructure, more help, more development. And interestingly enough, the Belt and Road Initiative launched by China has now led to some competition with the others. And so there is now proposals coming from the US, from Japan, from others for development. And we see this in action in Papua New Guinea, where there are offers from both sides. That could be good news in the end, right? If there is a lot of supply of ideas, as long as they're coordinated.
All right, we'll be watching all of it. Yves Tiberghien with the University of British Columbia, thanks so much for joining us today.